Hello and thank you for joining with us. I'm Igor Kule and this is Eastern Europe Review, a joint production of BELSAT TV and TVP World. In our program we discuss events in Eastern Europe, focusing primarily on Belarus, Ukraine and Russia. In this episode we'll take a look at the following topics. Belarus is the only country in the world where the authorities celebrate anniversary of the October Bolshevik Revolution.
We still support the Soviet government.
How is Russia celebrating the Day of National Unity?
We're fighting now not only in Ukraine, but in general with universal evil.
A special meme police has been created in Russia.
Why have I chosen this activity? Because God decided so.
The Belarusian authorities organized rallies near Lenin monuments in all major cities to honor the day of the Great October Revolution. However, many Belarusians don't consider this day as an occasion to celebrate. Officials timed the date with the opening of several small construction sites across the country, which they referred to as a gift to the people. It appears that Lukashenko's regime and Belarusians themselves have different assessments of the Soviet past.
On Independence Square in Minsk, flowers were solemnly laid at the monument of Lenin in honor of the 106th anniversary of the October Revolution. The same event with the same scenario took place in a dozen Belarusian cities.
У каждого из нас появилось право на достойную жизнь. У рабочих, крестьян, женщин и детей.
Кто бы что ни говорил, Беларусь единственная, Беларусь прекрасна.
Революция, о которой так много говорили большевики, наконец-то свершилась.
Belarus is the only country in the world where the authorities officially celebrate the day of the so-called October Revolution.
Our opponents sometimes throw stupid accusations at us, saying that Belarus is the only one that celebrates November the 7th. So what? It's wonderful that we honor our traditions, that we know the origin and beginning of our modern statehood.
Indeed, Lukashenko's regime clings to the Soviet past, inheriting many attributes of modern statehood, including planned economic management, the permissiveness of the special services, and massive violations of human rights. All these celebrations in Belarusian cities are organized by the authorities to maintain the image of a great state, made possible only through centralized power.
It creates a contrast between the Soviet revolutionary rhetoric and the current conservative reality. It's possible to get rid of it only if it erases the Soviet revolutionary spirit, but the regime doesn't dare do this, because there is nothing to replace Soviet heritage ideologically.
BELSAT asked its viewers whether they celebrate October Revolution Day. 81% of the respondents said they don't celebrate because the Bolsheviks brought mass repression to the Belarusian land and destroyed the language and culture. 16% perceive it simply as a day off. Pro-government channels, of course, broadcast opinions that are convenient for the regime's ideology.
We still support the Soviet government. We believe that only a strong government, as the Soviet government used to be, is what guarantees us a good life.
On the occasion of the holiday, Belarusian officials went to ceremonially open facilities all over the country.
In honor of November the 7th, we always, the party taught us this, give gifts to the people. Every year, and this year as well, top officials and the president go to labor collectives to open new buildings.
Although the gifts were not very impressive, under the slogan "Smart people build bridges and fools build fences," Prime Minister Roman Halochanka opened a section of the bypass road in Horadnya. Officials also inaugurated an overpass in Zlobin, and with the cutting of the red ribbon, the heads of the Chavusy authorities launched the road to the Centralny microdistrict.
The Soviet context, when they say the state made a gift to the people for the holiday, looks funny in a Soviet style, because it isn't a gift from the state. If something is done at a budget cost funded by our taxes, then it isn't a gift for the holiday, because no one celebrates it.
Belarusian propaganda doesn't mention Soviet repressions, mass executions, or famine, and continues to insist that the similarity to the Soviet Union is good, because the Soviet Union was great.
Я очень горжусь, что в нашей стране
I'm very proud that monuments aren't demolished in our country, that history is honored in our country, that streets aren't renamed in our country. Our president deserves credit for this. If we protect the past, then the future will always be bright for us.
However, this is not a past that Belarusians themselves would like to repeat in the future.
While the Belarusian regime is celebrating the Great October Revolution, Russia is celebrating Unity Day. Russian authorities have sought the support of the Orthodox Church and so-called Z artists to demonstrate unity among the people and their support for President Vladimir Putin. Amid the ongoing aggressive war against Ukraine, Russian cities hosted processions and concerts where messages of support for the military invasion were conveyed. In his statement, Putin delved into his favorite pseudo-historical arguments, referencing times of evil conquerors from the Golden Horde and enemies from Europe.
Russia celebrates the so-called Unity Day in early November. Officially, it is a day commemorating the military glory of Russia, traditionally recalling battles fought by the empire centuries ago. In the capital of Tatarstan, an Orthodox procession moved through the streets. This is Our Lady of Kazan, one of the primary icons venerated by the Russian Orthodox Church. The icon was transferred to Russia from the Vatican in the early 2000s. At that time, the gesture symbolized friendship between nations. However, in the present context, prayers are being offered before the icon of Our Lady of Kazan for the victory of the Russian army in the ongoing war in Ukraine.
We must pray that God will give people the wisdom and strength to stop the current situation and that our children, our loved ones, will not die on the battlefields.
People in Yekaterinburg have come together to foster spiritual unity in the Urals. Above the column, flags of the Russian Empire and those featuring the faces of saints are proudly displayed. The procession is led by the representatives of the church, marching in step with the participants involved in the aggressive war against Ukraine. In the southeast of the European part of Russia, in Saratov, the scene is outwardly different. Here, students and employees of state and municipal institutions have taken to the streets. However, the essence remains the same. Prayer has been replaced by songs praising the war, icons by orange and black flags. There is no diversity in religions. Instead, there is a singular spiritual focus for Russia. President Putin. This perspective is expressed by a musician and propagandist from the state TV channel.
Faith has ceased to matter whether someone is Orthodox, Muslim, or Jewish. Everyone has become divided into humans and non-humans. I apologize for that comparison on this holiday, but unfortunately, we're fighting now not only in Ukraine, but in general with universal evil.
In St. Petersburg, the northern capital of Russia, residents were entertained with musical performances. The audience received souvenirs in the form of national flags, which they used to greet the artists. However, after the event, official symbols were discarded in garbage cans. The police showed no concerns, and even a lone picketer with a placard against the persecution of Jews did not attract their attention. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin addressed the new public chamber and talked about the times of Alexander Nevsky.
After all, he traveled to the Horde, bowed to the Horde Khans to effectively resist the invasion of the West. Why? Yes, because the Horde behaved brazenly, brutally, but they didn't touch the main thing, our language, traditions, culture, that were claimed by the Western conquerors.
Putin said that Unity Day was supposed to be the main symbol of independence and spiritual journey in the hearts of Russians. However, people still don't understand what they were told to celebrate on November the 4th and the meaning of this holiday.
The Unity Day holiday means nothing to me in principle. I don't remember. I don't know. The very name of this holiday, it doesn't reflect its essence at all in any way, because we don't have any unity. And the events in Dagestan have perfectly shown this.
But those who are certainly happy about the holiday are the commanders of Chechen security forces. The head of the republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, presented them with luxury cars. According to the Chechen leader, The cars were awarded for the war against Ukraine. There haven't been reports of premium cars being awarded to law enforcers in other regions of Russia. The tone for the celebration of Unity Day was set by Shaman, a singer actively promoting the war. During the concert, he pressed a symbolic red nuclear button.
Jokes aside, Russia is going to introduce meme police. And it's not a joke. A new bachelor's program will be opened at one of the top Moscow universities called Media Support of State Interests and National Security. The program has been developed in collaboration with the FSB Anti-Terrorism Committee. Now anyone can become a professional meme officer. Students are trained to combat terrorist propaganda, address suicides among teenagers, handle insults to the feelings of believers, and upon graduation must also be proficient in identifying extremism on social networks. This, according to Russian authorities, includes any democratic activity, as recent news reports suggest.
Propaganda of terrorism, the ideology of criminal culture, suicide among teenagers, and insults to the feelings of believers. The media police will be dealing with all these issues on the Russian internet.
We see how much fake and provocative information is appearing. All of this needs to be carefully studied and responded to.
Their program to train media police, or as they have already been dubbed on the internet, the meme police, has been supported by the FSB Anti-Terrorism Committee. The leading lawyer of the non-governmental organization Roskomsvoboda believes that at the moment it is impossible to determine the exact goals of the authorities.
Perhaps it's necessary to concentrate the center of competence in one hand, to upgrade it, purchase the necessary software, and create a separate computer and technical laboratory.
In 2022, there were more than 770 cases of criminal prosecution in Russia for online publications and reposts. According to the human rights project Digital Freedom, this marks the highest level in 15 years. The trend of administrative and criminal cases being opened for the so-called discrediting of the Russian army, spreading fakes about the so-called special military operation, and accusations of extremism continues in 2023. In May of this year, Moscow activist Mikhail Krieger received a 7-year prison sentence for alleged extremism and calls for terrorism. The basis for this was several posts on Facebook from 2 years ago, in which he openly expressed his disdain for Putin and the FSB. His final post was dedicated to Russian aggression in Ukraine. The Russian police also rely on denunciations. Activist Alexei Solovyov wrote a comment under the post about the transfer of the icon to the Russian military in Ukraine.
A believer, whose most terrible sin is murder, gives an icon to someone who kills peaceful people?
Concerned citizens reported Alexei to the police. The man was accused of extremism and discrediting the army. There is an institution created to search through the internet to find dangerous content. This organization is called the Safe Internet League, and it is headed by Ekaterina Mizulina, the daughter of Russian Senator Elena Mizulina. Mizulina Jr. contacts government agencies with complaints about so-called extremist content. In addition, she organizes summer internships for school children and students.
Why have I chosen this activity? Because God decided so.
Russian authorities are also catching internet extremists in occupied territories. The Telegram channel Crimean Smersh publishes screenshots of posts by local residents that, according to administrators, discredit Russia and its army. Control at absolutely all levels. So in September 2022, authorities began to require telecom operators to install so-called technical means of countering threats, special software. Thanks to them, authorities can block websites and instant messengers. There are also tools for searching for harmful content.
For tracking, there is a lot of other software that flags up different content and highlights what to pay attention to manually.
According to Roskomnadzor, in the first half of 2023, over 885,000 sites with information prohibited by law were blocked and deleted in Russia. This marks an 85% increase compared to the same period in 2022. The number of individual materials that have been blocked or removed exceeds 1 million.
And that's all for today. The Eastern Europe Review will be back next Sunday. Please stay with us here on TVP World and support Ukraine.